So y is equal to sine x is a trigonometric function. And remember, for this to be a function, the domain of f, the domain of f must be minus infinity to infinity. Okay, always the set of real numbers. Domain can be any real number. Okay, you can take any value of the angle, right? And range always has to lie between -1 and +1. Okay, so y will always lie between -1 and +1. So please remember this, that for y is equal to sine x, you have domain as minus infinity infinity and range as -1 +1. That is, x can take these values, any value between minus infinity infinity, that is any real value, and the range, that the value that y can take is -1 +1. Similarly, for cos x, x can take any value, any real value, and the range of this is -1 to 1, because you know that the value of sine will always lie between -1 and +1. Okay, both inclusive. Similarly, for tan x you won't require much, but if you can remember, it is good. Okay, the domain of tan x and the range of tan x. Okay, these we'll be using these in finding the domain and range of certain types of functions. Okay, okay. Next we come to inverse trigonometric functions. Now, what are inverse trigonometric functions? If you have, suppose x is equal to sine y, okay, then we write y is equal to sine inverse x. Okay, now an example can be, suppose you have, you know that sine pi by 6 is half, right? So half is equal to sine pi by 6. That means if you want to write this as an inverse circular function, you can write this as pi by 6 is equal to sine inverse x, sine inverse half. Okay, so this uh, pi by 6 is equal to sine inverse half. This here, sine inverse x, these are called inverse circular functions, or simply inverse function, inverse trigonometric functions. Either you can call them inverse trigonometric functions or you can call them inverse circular functions. Both will do. Okay. So similarly, you can have, similarly, cos inverse x, you have tan inverse x, you have sec inverse x, cosec inverse x, and you have tan inverse x. Okay. All these are inverse trigonometric functions. Okay. So remember, whatever is the value of cos inverse x, it will be an angle. Just as you see here, what is the value of sine inverse half? It is pi by 6. Similarly, tan inverse half is an angle. Sec inverse half is an angle. Okay. Now we come to the domain and range. Now, if you have y is equal to sine inverse x, okay, then the domain of the function, that is x, will always lie between -1 and +1. Remember, okay, this x here will always lie between -1 and +1. Okay, and y will always lie between minus infinity infinity. That is, y is always will always be any real number. Okay, the value of y, that is the value of sine inverse x, can be any real number. Similarly, if you have y is equal to cos inverse x, it's the same thing. That is, x will always lie between -1 and +1. Okay. and y will be a real number. Okay. For tan inverse x, we won't need tan inverse much for domain and range, but still the domain is minus infinity minus 1. That is, it can accept values between minus 1 and 1. It can take any value. X can take any value. Okay. X belongs to. And here y belongs to the set of real numbers minus the set x such that x is equal to n pi plus pi by 2, where n is an integer. Okay. So x can take any value except values between minus 1 and plus 1, and um, the the function can the range of this function is such that x is equal to n pi plus pi by 2, where n is an integer. That is, you can put n is equal to 0, you can put n is equal to minus 1, you can put n is equal to minus 2, you can put n is equal to plus 2, and so on. You will get infinitely many values. Okay. So except those values, it can take any value, tan inverse x. Okay. The main thing is mostly we shall be using these two. Tan inverse x we shall not be using much. Okay. Next is another important class of functions, which is called the exponential functions. How does it work? These functions of this type, y is equal to a to the power of x, where a is any real number. Any real number are called exponential functions. Okay, I've given you examples. If you see, example here is fx is equal to 2 to the power of x. This is an exponential function. You can have fx is equal to 3 by 4 to the power of x. Exponential function. You can have fx is equal to root 3 to the power of x. Exponential function. All these are exponential functions. Okay. And remember that the domain of this will be, that is, x will always be a real number. Okay. And y will also be a real number always. Okay. Next is logarithmic function. Now logarithms you have done back in class 9. You know the properties of logarithms. Okay. Now something that very important needs to be discussed here about the domain and range of this logarithmic function. Suppose if I have y is equal to log x to the base e. Now remember, from now on, whenever we talk about logarithms, we'll always talk about natural logs. Okay. But for this case, we'll take a general base. We'll take the base as a, not e. Okay. Suppose you have y is equal to log x to the base a. Then what are the values that x can take and what are the values that y will take, right? So here, for y is equal to log x to be a function, x must always take values that are positive and greater than 0. Okay. X must always take values that are positive. So the first condition is that this part must be greater than 0. Okay. Next, what should be a range? Range can be any real number. Okay. So the value of log x to the base a can be any real number. Okay. And this is about your domain and range. But what can you say? What about the base of a logarithm? Base of a logarithm, remember, is always positive, and base cannot be equal to 1. We never take the base of a logarithm to be equal to 1. Okay. So remember these conditions for logs. First, domain is any positive number. That is, this number has to be positive. Okay. For log to be defined as a function, that is, you cannot take a negative value of x. Next is that the range of the log, the value of log x to the base a can be any real number, minus infinity to infinity. And always remember that the base of a log is always positive, okay, and never equal to 1. Okay, these. With these concepts of functions, we now move on to again certain types of problems from which we have to determine the domain of functions. Okay, look at the first one. Given here, fx is equal to log e to the base x. Okay, what can be the domain of this function? If you see here, x is the base, right? And what did I tell you about the base? That the base cannot be equal to 0, right? And the base has to be positive, that is greater than 0. And what else? The base cannot be equal to 1, right? So that is what the acceptable values of x are, that it has to be positive and cannot be equal to 1. Therefore, what should be the domain of f? Therefore, domain of f must be equal to um, if you consider the real number line, what are the values that are leaving out? This is your 0. So all positive values you are taking starting from 0. Okay, and which value are you leaving out? 1. So that means domain of f has to be from, you start from 0 to, and you don't touch 1 because it cannot take the value 1. So 0 1. And what else? Union. And from 1 again you start and you continue till infinity, right? So this is the domain of f. Given here, fx is equal to square root of log 5x minus x square divided by 6. Okay, you have to find out the domain of this. How will you find out? First of all, what is the restriction here? That any quantity under a radical must be positive. So here, the quantity under the radical here is 5x minus x square, log 5x minus x square by 6, right? This quantity has to be positive, right? Now, this quantity from the definition of log, what can we write? Because I told you that the base we always have to take when we talk about logs in and the base is not given, then you take the base to be e, right? So from the definition of log, you can write this as e to the power of 0. Greater than e to the power of 0 is 1. That means this will give you 5x minus x to the power of 4 greater than 6. That means you get here this x square, not x to the power of 4. All this is x square. Okay, so this is going to give you x square plus 5x minus 5x plus 6. Plus 6 is less than 0, which can be factorized into x minus 2 into x minus 3, right? So that means x minus 2 into x minus 3, what does it mean? On method of intervals, put x minus 2 is equal to 0, you get x is equal to 2. Put x minus 3 is equal to 0, you get x is equal to 3. The lower value is 2. So that means, and because you have a less than sign, so x must lie between 2 and 3. That means x belongs to which interval? This open interval. Okay. So this is what the first condition gives. Next one here is, what is the next condition? Next condition is that whatever value that you have inside the log, whatever value that you have inside the log must be positive, right? That was a condition for the domain of logs, isn't it? Domain of log is this, and I told you fx is equal to log x. This quantity must be greater than 0. Okay, so that is why whatever is within the log here, what you see within the log here is this one, this quantity, 5x minus x square by 6. So this also has to be positive. So what does this give us? This will give you 5x minus x square is greater than 0, right? That means you get x times 5 minus x is greater than 0. That means x into x minus 5 is less than 0. So again, from the method of intervals, if you put x is equal to 0, you get x is equal to 0. And you put x minus 5 is equal to 0, you get x is equal to 5. The lower value is 5. And since you have a less than sign here, that means x must lie between 0 and 5. That means x must belong to which interval? 0, 5. Now x belongs to this interval and x belongs to this interval. Therefore, what should be a domain of f? It is must be the intersection of these two sets. That is 2, 3 intersection 0, 5. This must be the domain. And if you see the domain of these two sets, the intersection, in fact, of these two sets will be this interval. Why? Because if you see it on the number line, this is your 5. Let's say this is your 3. This is your 2. Okay. Now, from 0 to 5, right? And from 2 to 3, right? So if you see, the intersection of these two sets is this part only, 2 to 3. And therefore, this is the domain of f. Okay. Moving on to the next question. Here, fx is equal to log cos x given. Okay. Now, in this case, whatever is within the log, that is cos x within the log, has to be positive, right? That is what we know from the definition of log. For log to be a function, whatever is within the log, that has to be positive. So here, cos x must be positive. Now, cos x is positive for what values of, for what values? Let's see the quadrants. Okay. Now, if you see cos is positive in this quadrant, that is any multiple of any positive or negative multiple of 2 pi, right? Plus pi by 2. That is in this, how do you come to this quadrant? 2n pi plus pi by 2, where n is any integer. If you take n is equal to 1, you rotate, uh, you rotate one complete rotation plus pi by 2. If you take n is equal to 2, how much do you get? You get 4 pi plus pi by 2. 4 pi is 2 rotations and then plus pi by 2, right? So we have covered this quadrant for this, right? What about this? How do you cover this quadrant? This must be 2n pi minus pi by 2 to cover this quadrant. Take n is equal to 1. You get 2 pi minus pi by 2. That means fourth quadrant. Take n is equal to 2. You get 4 pi minus pi by 2. Again, fourth quadrant, right? After 2 rotations, fourth quadrant. And you can also check with your negative values of n also. That is for any positive or any negative or any zero values. That means here it means that x lies between 2n pi minus pi by 2, 2n pi plus pi by 2. Okay. So that means x belongs to which interval? 2n pi. And you can write here n belongs to z, any integer. 2n pi minus pi by 2, 2n pi plus pi by 2, where n belongs to any integral value. Okay. So therefore, what is the domain of f? It is this interval, 2n pi minus pi by 2, 2n pi plus pi by 2, where n is any integer. Okay. We now move on to the fourth question. Fourth question here is sine inverse log x by 3 to the base 2. Sine inverse log x by 3 to the base 2. Okay. Now here, first of all, what do you see within the log? Within the log, you have x by 3. And the condition is that whatever is within the log, that must be positive. That is the first condition for this function to be defined, right? So we write here, you must have x by 3 greater than 0. That means you must have x greater than 0. So this is one condition, right? That means if x is greater than 0, what does it mean? X belongs to which interval? 0, infinity, right? Also, sine inverse of log x by 3. Now, if you remember the domain of sine inverse, what was the domain of sine inverse here? Domain of sine inverse was, it lies between -1 and +1. So that means this log x by 3 to the base 2 must lie between -1 and +1, right? This entire thing within the sine inverse must lie between -1 and +1, because that is how the domain of sine inverse is defined. So that means you get here from the definition of log 2 to the power of -1 less than or equal to x by 3 less than or equal to 2 to the power of 1. That means half less than or equal to x by 3 less than or equal to 2. That means you have, now if you multiply uh, both sides by 3, so we get 3 by 2 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 6. So that means x lies in what interval? This closed interval, 3 by 2, 6. So that means what should be the domain of f? Domain of f, x belongs to 0 infinity first of all. Intersection 3 by 2, 6. Now what should be the intersection of these two? If you see it on the number line, this is my 0, and let's say this is my 3 by 2, and let's say this is my 6 here. Okay, 0 infinity means you're starting from here, moving till infinity, right? 3 by 2, 6 closed interval means 3 by 2 and 6. That means if you take the intersection of these two sets, it must be this part only, right? So therefore, this must be equal to simply 3 by 2, 6. And that is your answer. Okay. Moving on to the next question. Fx is equal to 10 to the power of minus x. Number 5. Given fx is equal to 10 to the power of minus x. Okay. Which can be written as fx is equal to 1 by 10 to the power of x. Which can now be written as fx is equal to 1 by 10 to the power of x, right? Now what is this? This is an exponential function, right? So here fx is an exponential function. And therefore, what should be the domain of f? Domain of f can be any real number, right? So that brings us to an end of this particular set of problems. We now move on to some special functions, okay? First special function is called the constant function. Remember these definitions. Constant function. Constant function, if I say fx is equal to half, this is a constant function because whatever value of x you take, the value of the function will remain half. Suppose if I want to find out f minus 1, it will be half. If I want to find out f 1.5, it will also be half. If I want to find out f minus 0.9999, it will also be half. So any value, a real value of x that you take, the value of the function will remain half. So therefore, such a function is called a constant function. So normally we take fx is equal to c as a constant function, where c is a constant, or fx is equal to k also. Sometimes we take c and k are very standard notation for constant in calculus. Okay, remember modulus function. Modulus function I have also discussed somewhat, and this is also very important that in case of modulus function, remember the definition of the function, that fx is equal to mod x. This is the modulus function. Okay, but in while this from this definition it is very difficult to work. Therefore, what we do here is we break this up into three parts. What parts? For various values of x. Okay, for the first value of x, which is positive, mod x, if x is positive within the mod, if you have a positive number, it will be equal to x. So fx is equal to mod x is x if x is positive. If x is equal to 0, if within the mod you have a 0, you'll get a 0. Okay, and if you have within the mod, if you have a negative number, then what does it do to the negative number mod? It makes it positive. How does it make it positive? By putting a negative sign. Okay, so for example, if you have, let's say, fx is equal to mod x, that means suppose you want to find f minus 2 by 3. How do you find this out? The answer should be 2 by 3 because mod function makes it positive, right? But how do you find this out? How do you getting a positive number? Because minus of whatever is within the mod, minus 2 by 3, which will give you a plus 2 by 3. Okay. So that is a modulus function. And next is the greatest integer function. Now this function we should be come across often also. The greatest integer function. The greatest integer function is defined as fx is equal to, and you write within this, okay, where x can take any real value. This is the domain of the function. Okay. Now what does it do in the greatest integer function? The greatest integer function, what it does is, suppose I want to find out f, let's say I want to find out 4.1. Then I write 4.1 within these box brackets. And because it is called the greatest integer function, 4.1, the greatest integer before positive 4.1 is 4, right? Because 5 is the integer that is greater than 4.1. Suppose if you have f 3.9, then what will be your answer? Your answer will be 3. Okay. In case if the number here is positive, you simply remove the decimal part. That is the rule. Okay. Next, if you have, let's say, f minus 1.3, then what should be your answer? Minus 1.3. How do you work out? When the number here is negative, remember, we not only remove this part, but we also add minus 1 to this. That means your answer will be minus 2. Okay. Suppose if I give you f minus 2.5, then this is equal to minus 2.5 within box brackets. And what should be your answer? Because the number is negative here, we remove this fractional part and we increase this by minus 1. So we get minus 3. Okay. Suppose if you have, if I give you f pi, how you calculate f pi? Pi is what? Approximately 3.142, right? What to do? This is a positive number, right? So therefore, we only remove the decimal part to get 3. This is what we call as the greatest integer function. Next class of function is called the signum function, but we'll not discuss it today. We'll discuss it tomorrow. So I'll stop